Hello gainers, Ralphie here on location for a walk and talk, sharing the journey, sharing the progress to encourage you with yours, because people have encouraged me with mine, and the internet and videos in particular is an excellent way of sharing information. And it's not just the tabloid headlines, it's not just the tricksy nature of information, it's not just the passing, fleeting, manufactured synthetic dramas, which one can perfectly understand because they're such an effective device at manipulating people. But it is our own choice. We decide, do we wish to be manipulated or not? And I'm not talking in anything draconian or Orwellian in nature. I'm talking about a day-to-day basis. And one of the very useful things to be aware of in our outward view of the world and processing and understanding the information we get back from the environment in which we live is the meaning of light. Now, let me enlighten you a little bit with my perspective and opinion. Light comes from the sun. It is radioactivity. Our eyes, which are quite complex and recently evolved senses, pick up in light, and we have the ability to see. But light doesn't stop there, because light can be enlightening. Because we have the ability to see, if we take the time to look more closely and see more clearly, we will pick up in more and more detail. A lot of that detail is about the natural world around us, and that is why watching nature programs and wildlife programs is one of your best uses of viewing time in television, if you happen to watch television. They're probably the most truly informative documentaries out there. However, enlightenment can take more than just the superficial form of what we see with our eyes. Because bear in mind, we can talk about intelligent or geniuses, you know, the great thinkers of all the ages. We regard them as enlightened people. People who have picked up on the light of knowledge and therefore transcended simply the observation of the world around them, beautiful as it is. But they've transcended that. They think more deeply. They discipline themselves more rigorously. They remove the distractions of the fleeting material world around them and focus their energies on seeking enlightenment within their field, whether it be chemistry, physics or art, for example. So that when more enlightened people like ourselves walk into, say, an art gallery, or happen to read a piece in a magazine or online about a chemistry development or quantum physics or something like that, which is actually readable. They can get so technical at times. With our little growing sense of personal enlightenment, we're able to read more into it. We're able to get more out of it. And therefore, there's simply more communication being exchanged. There's also illumination where we walk into a room and there happens to be an individual in that room, and it happens all the time. We take it for granted, and a lot of people barely even notice it because they're just not looking. And that is people who are illuminating. They have a certain energy to them. They may not necessarily be physically beautifully or particularly well dressed, but these are the people who, with the energy that they radiate, just as light is radiated, they seem to be radiating an invisible light that they have inside. And of course the opposite is true. As soon as you meet negative people, particularly as you get more experience of life, you just get repelled. as you should be. Never spend too much time with negative people. They will basically bring you down. They will undo you. We have to defend ourselves, even from those who are closest to us, by default. Then there is the light of knowledge, which is why so much knowledge is censored over time. And particularly in archaeology, very interesting at the moment, with so many fascinating discoveries which are bypassing the usual gatekeepers of academia and being delivered. Some of it's bullshit, to be honest, but some of it's not. And in fact, it's when you see the bullshit that is masquerading as scientific and cultural knowledge that you're actually more clearly able to identify the real thing from the fake, simply through your variety of exposure to it. But I'm digressing slightly. Back to enlightenment, being aware of the light. As children, we start off, we associate light with warmth, with comfort, with friendliness. It's why children are scared of the dark. You see, the dark is the absence of the light. It's the absence of reassurance. It's the absence of illumination. It is taking an experience and losing control. And kids are spontaneous, they're instinctive, they are much more in touch with their subconscious wisdom. And that's why kids are scared of the dark generally. And why even a small light, a night light, is such a valuable companion. Because even one single star in the night sky that's visible is reassurance and affirmation that all the stars are there. Only one needs to be seen. But enlightenment it's more than that. And what you may find is that as time goes on, if you're calm inside, if you're growing yourself and developing yourself in your own way, under your terms, listening to wiser people and cultivating your personal nobility, what you will find is you simply start to know more. These little eureka moments, these little flashes of inspiration, suddenly becoming aware for the first time of things that you've not been aware of before, which are going to multiply and add up to your personal wisdom. This all happens, and we all make choices in life, and it tends to get narrowed down to, say, Star Wars, for example. The Jedi, they represent the light, and the Sith represent the darkness. And you'll find in, whether it's Tolkien you're reading, or C.S. Lewis, whether it be Plato, whether it be the ancient Sumerian texts, the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I encourage you to buy and read. It's the oldest continually published book in the world. And it's got some very interesting content. It's not a big book, so it's a quick read. And it's not expensive either. I recommend it. But enlightenment, it comes from being more aware of what light is in its fullest sense. And it's interesting that you have groups out there who like to put an application of light to their name, suggesting that they're enlightened. But there are false lights. And these are lights that we can't see, but we can feel. And the greatest enlightenment is when all our senses are in unison and holistic together, our conscious or subconscious, when we are fine tuning our instinctive awareness to all the shades and permutations of light. That is when we see more light, because life in the world, in the universe, is full of light. And even now, it's the physicists and astronomers that are really showing just how spectacular it is. Thank you for watching. I shall leave you with a view.